Nestled deep within the temporal lobe of the human brain lies a structure no bigger than an almond, yet one that exerts a profound influence over how we experience and respond to the world. This structure is the amygdala, a small paired cluster of gray matter that plays a central role in shaping our emotions, driving our reactions to stress, and coloring the memories we carry with us. Although its modest size might suggest a limited function, the amygdala is, in fact, a powerhouse in the brain's emotional circuitry, orchestrating a symphony of responses that determine how we feel, act, and even remember. The amygdala's name comes from the Greek word for almond, a nod to its distinctive shape. Each hemisphere of the brain houses one amygdala, tucked away in the depths of the temporal lobe. Anatomically, the amygdala is not a single uniform structure, but rather a collection of multiple interconnected nuclei, distinct clusters of neurons, each with specialized roles. These nuclei are not isolated. Instead, they form a critical hub within the limbic system, the broader network responsible for emotion, behavior, motivation, and memory. To understand why the amygdala is so important, it helps to recognize the breadth of its connections. The amygdala is wired into a vast web of brain regions. It communicates closely with the hippocampus, which is involved in forming and retrieving memories, and is tightly linked to the hypothalamus, the command center for many of the body's hormonal and autonomic responses. Through these and other pathways, the amygdala receives input from the senses, processes the emotional significance of what we see, hear, and feel, and then determines how our bodies should react. The amygdala's most well-known function is as the brain's emotional processing center, especially regarding fear, anxiety, and aggression. When we encounter a threat, real or perceived, the amygdala springs into action. It rapidly interprets sensory information, searching for signs of danger, and if it detects something amiss, it sets off a cascade of neural events. One of its first acts is to send urgent signals to the hypothalamus, which in turn triggers the classic fight-or-flight response. This ancient survival mechanism mobilizes stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, quickens the pulse, sharpens focus, and readies the muscles for action. In moments of genuine peril, this response can be life-saving, yet the amygdala's reach extends far beyond fear. Research highlights its role in a spectrum of emotions, including anger, anxiety, and even pleasure. It helps us navigate social encounters, decode facial expressions, and gauge the intentions of others. The amygdala is also deeply involved in memory, particularly in encoding emotionally charged events. Memories linked to strong emotions, whether a joyful celebration or a harrowing accident, tend to be more vivid and lasting, a phenomenon that stems largely from the amygdala's partnership with the hippocampus. Given its central role in emotional life, it is not surprising that the amygdala is implicated in various neuropsychiatric conditions. Overactivity of the amygdala has been observed in individuals who have experienced trauma, as well as those living with mood and anxiety disorders. In these cases, the amygdala can become hyper-responsive, reacting intensely even to minor stressors and contributing to persistent feelings of fear, vigilance, or emotional distress. Scientists believe that this heightened state of alarm can disrupt emotional regulation and make it difficult to break free from cycles of anxiety or depression. The amygdala's influence on behavior is equally striking. It acts as an integrative center, weaving together sensory information with cognitive evaluations to inform how we act in the world. When the amygdala flags something as emotionally significant, it can shape decision-making, bias our judgments, and even alter our motivations. This ability to attach emotional weight to experiences is an evolutionary adaptation, one that has helped humans and other animals survive in unpredictable environments by prioritizing attention to potential threats and, conversely, to sources of safety and reward. At the cellular level, the amygdala is composed of several key subnuclei, including the central, basal, and lateral nuclei. Each of these regions has its own set of inputs and outputs, forming complex circuits that fine-tune emotional and behavioral responses. For example, the lateral nucleus receives sensory information from the outside world, while the central nucleus serves as a major output hub, relaying signals that control physiological stress reactions via the hypothalamus. This intricate architecture allows the amygdala to process incoming information rapidly and with remarkable sensitivity. Despite its reputation as the brain's fear center, the amygdala's capabilities are far more nuanced. It does not act in isolation, but rather as part of a dynamic network that integrates emotional, cognitive, and sensory data. Its activity can be modulated by other brain regions, including those involved in reasoning and self-control. Evidence suggests that healthy emotional regulation involves a balance, allowing the amygdala to alert us to danger when necessary, but also enabling the rest of the brain to put the brakes on excessive alarm. One especially intriguing aspect of the amygdala is its role in learning. By linking neutral sensory cues with emotional experiences, such as associating the sound of thunder with the memory of a frightening storm, the amygdala helps us adapt to our environment. This learning is not always conscious. It often operates below the level of awareness, shaping our habits, preferences, and aversions in subtle but enduring ways. Modern neuroscience continues to unravel the amygdala's mysteries, revealing its foundational role in nearly every facet of emotional life. Yet, for all its power, the amygdala is not immutable. Research has shown that its structure and function can change in response to experience, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. This opens the door to the possibility that practices such as meditation might influence the amygdala, potentially reducing its reactivity over time. Understanding the amygdala's anatomy and function is therefore not just a matter of scientific curiosity, it is a key to unlocking new approaches for fostering emotional well-being and resilience. As we continue this exploration, we will delve into how practices like meditation may bring about changes in the amygdala, and why such changes could be so significant for health and happiness. For now, it is enough to appreciate the amygdala's unique place in the brain, a tiny, almond-shaped sentinel, ever vigilant, ever ready, shaping the very contours of our emotional landscape. Meditation, once the domain of mystics and monastics, has become a subject of intense scientific scrutiny in recent decades. Researchers, equipped with neuroimaging tools and a deepening understanding of brain architecture, have begun to reveal how this ancient practice leaves measurable marks on both mind and body. At its core, meditation refers to a family of mental training techniques designed to cultivate focused attention, awareness, and sometimes specific emotional states. Yet beneath this straightforward definition lies surprising diversity. From mindfulness-based stress reduction, often called MBSR, to the relaxation response and beyond, different forms of meditation engage the brain in distinct but overlapping ways, each with its own physiological signature. One of the most intriguing findings from recent research is that meditation does not merely alter fleeting patterns of brain activity, it appears to reshape brain structure itself. Scientists using advanced imaging methods have observed changes in brain regions responsible for attention, emotion, and self-regulation, suggesting a form of mental exercise that can sculpt the brain's very anatomy. In particular, meditation has been shown to affect the brain's connectivity, increasing the efficiency and integration of neural networks. This effect is especially pronounced in areas related to emotion regulation, with whole brain structural and effective connectivity enhanced after sustained meditation practice. These shifts are not just theoretical, they are evident in the way meditators process emotional challenges and recover from stress, pointing to tangible benefits in everyday life. To understand how meditation sets these changes in motion, it helps to consider what happens during a typical session. When someone sits quietly, focusing on the breath or repeating a mantra, the brain shifts away from its habitual wandering state. Instead of replaying past events or anticipating future worries, attention becomes anchored in the present moment. This shift is not merely subjective, it is reflected in a brain's electrical rhythms. Studies have shown that meditation increases the complexity of neural signals and alters oscillatory patterns compared to the resting state. In practical terms, this means the brain becomes more flexible and less locked into habitual grooves of thought. The default mode network, a key system involved in mind-wandering and self-referential thinking, tends to become less dominant, while circuits supporting focused attention and bodily awareness become more engaged. Meditation is far from a single monolithic experience. Researchers have identified three major categories of meditation mechanisms: attentional, constructive, and deconstructive. Attentional practices train the mind to sustain focus on a chosen object, such as the breath or bodily sensations. Constructive practices, like loving-kindness meditation, aim to cultivate positive emotional states. Deconstructive practices seek to unravel habitual patterns of thought, helping practitioners observe the transient nature of experience. Each approach engages the brain differently, enhancing positive psychoaffective factors and reducing negative ones. Over time, these shifts lay the groundwork for lasting changes in how the brain processes emotion, including fear and anxiety. The effects of meditation extend beyond temporary psychological states. Repeated practice leads to neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to remodel itself in response to experience. Studies using diffusion tensor imaging, a technique for mapping white matter pathways, have found that meditation can increase the integrity and connectivity of these pathways, particularly between regions involved in emotion and self-regulation. This means the brain's communication highways become more robust, facilitating greater control over responses to emotional stimuli. These changes have even been observed in older adults, suggesting that meditation may help counteract age-related brain atrophy and preserve cognitive and emotional health. A particularly compelling area of research focuses on the amygdala, the brain's sentinel for emotional salience. While previous chapters explored the amygdala's role in assigning emotional weight to experience, scientific studies now suggest that meditation can dampen its reactivity. Functional MRI. Scans reveal that individuals who meditate regularly show reduced amygdala activation in response to stressors. Some studies have reported that this reduced activation may be accompanied by structural changes, such as decreased amygdala volume, though findings on physical shrinkage are still being investigated and are not yet universally established. This potential reduction is not a sign of impairment, rather, it may reflect a brain that is less prone to chronic stress and more resilient in the face of emotional challenges. What drives these changes? Meditation's influence on the autonomic nervous system provides part of the answer. During meditation, there is a measurable shift from sympathetic dominance, the body's fight or flight mode, to parasympathetic dominance, which supports relaxation and recovery. Heart rate variability increases, breathing slows, and the body enters a state conducive to restoration. This physiological calm is mirrored in the brain, where networks associated with vigilance and threat detection become less active. The amygdala, once hyper-alert to potential dangers, receives less stimulation and, over time, may become less reactive as it is called into action, less frequently. Different meditation styles can produce subtly different outcomes. For instance, mindfulness-based stress reduction and the relaxation response both foster calm and self-awareness, but they do so via slightly different neural pathways, MBSR. Tends to engage areas involved in sustained attention and body awareness, while the relaxation response more directly reduces stress-related brain activity. Both, however, have been linked to beneficial changes in emotional processing and brain structure. Importantly, the benefits of meditation are not limited to seasoned practitioners. Even short-term training can yield measurable changes in brain activity and physiology, suggesting that the brain is more malleable than once thought. Starting a meditation practice does not require special equipment or esoteric knowledge. Practical advice from researchers and practitioners alike emphasizes the importance of consistency over perfection. Beginning with just a few minutes a day, choosing a regular time and place to practice, and approaching each session with curiosity and self-compassion can help build a sustainable habit. Focusing on the breath is a common entry point, but the key is to observe what arises without judgment, gently returning attention when the mind inevitably wanders. Over time, this simple act of returning again and again helps retrain the brain's response to stress and emotion. For many, the appeal of meditation lies in its promise of greater calm and clarity. Yet behind this promise is a growing body of scientific evidence that meditation can alter the very fabric of the brain. By enhancing neural connectivity, shifting physiological states, and potentially reducing amygdala reactivity and volume, meditation offers a pathway to greater emotional resilience. While research continues to uncover the intricacies of these changes, the current consensus is clear. The brain is not a static organ, and through meditation, it is possible to reshape the mind's response to the world in profound and lasting ways. As science has delved ever deeper into the workings of the human brain, one of the most intriguing discoveries has been the impact of meditation on the amygdala, a structure once thought to be relatively unchangeable in adulthood. The idea that a simple, non-pharmacological practice could actually shrink or reshape this hub of emotional processing might have seemed far-fetched only a generation ago. Yet, a growing body of research now paints a compelling picture. Meditation, especially when practiced regularly, can bring about measurable reductions in both the size and activity of the amygdala, with effects that ripple throughout emotional life. The journey to understanding how meditation transforms the amygdala began with careful observation of experienced meditators. Early studies hinted at differences in emotional reactivity, but it took advances in neuroimaging to reveal the physical and functional changes occurring beneath the surface. For example, a comprehensive review of neurobiological changes induced by mindfulness and meditation has synthesized a wealth of findings demonstrating that these practices can alter brain structures, including the amygdala itself. This systematic approach has allowed scientists to move beyond anecdotal evidence, harnessing the power of magnetic resonance imaging and other techniques to track changes over time. One pivotal study in this field came from a research team at Harvard who designed an experiment to see whether meditation could bring about structural changes in the adult brain within a relatively short period. Participants underwent 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation training, practicing exercises designed to cultivate present moment awareness. At the end of the program, magnetic resonance imaging scans revealed a striking result. There was a significant decrease in gray matter density within the amygdala. This measurable reduction suggests that the amygdala, far from being fixed, is capable of adapting its structure in response to new habits and experiences. The implications of this finding are profound. The amygdala's size and neural density have been linked to emotional reactivity and vulnerability to stress. By practicing meditation, individuals may be able to reduce the volume of their amygdala, making it less likely to dominate their emotional responses. But does this effect extend beyond the act of meditation itself? Another study sought to answer this by measuring participants' amygdala responses to emotional stimuli outside of formal meditation sessions. The results showed that, even when not meditating, those who had completed 8 weeks of training exhibited a reduced amygdala response to stressors. In other words, the benefits of meditation appeared to linger, reshaping the brain's emotional circuitry in a way that lasted well beyond the cushion or the yoga mat. Intriguingly, the relationship between meditation and the amygdala is not limited to functional changes. It also appears to influence the very volume of this region. The Rotterdam study, a large-scale investigation into the effects of lifestyle on brain health, found that individuals who practiced meditation and yoga tended to have a smaller right amygdala compared to those who did not engage in these practices. While this research cannot prove causation, it adds to a growing consensus that meditation is associated with structural differences in the amygdala, potentially reflecting a brain that is less chronically activated by stress. Other lines of inquiry have explored how different forms of meditation might affect the amygdala. For instance, researchers have compared mindful attention and compassion meditation, two distinct approaches that train the mind in different ways. Both were found to reduce amygdala activity in response to emotional triggers, even when participants were not actively meditating. This suggests that the effects of meditation are not merely fleeting, but can generalize to how the brain processes emotions in daily life. The reduction in amygdala reactivity has also been linked to lower levels of self-reported anxiety, supporting the idea that these neural changes are mirrored in subjective experience. At the heart of these findings lies neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to remodel itself. Longitudinal studies have tracked changes in the amygdala over weeks and months, observing that regular meditation leads not only to reduced activity, but also to increased functional connectivity between the amygdala and cortical regions involved in emotion regulation. This enhanced communication may help explain why meditators are often better equipped to navigate emotional challenges, with their brains showing a more balanced interplay between the amygdala and areas that support self-control and perspective. Importantly, the effects of meditation on the amygdala are not limited to seasoned practitioners. Research has shown that even novice meditators can experience measurable neural shifts. In some studies, meditation induced changes in brainwave activity, in particular, beta and gamma oscillations, in both the amygdala and the hippocampus, another region involved in emotion and memory. These shifts were observed after relatively short periods of practice, suggesting that the brain begins to adapt early in the journey, not just after years of commitment. A particularly compelling piece of the puzzle comes from studies linking stress reduction to structural changes in the amygdala. For example, individuals who reported greater decreases in perceived stress after meditation training also showed more pronounced reductions in amygdala volume. This correlation hints at a feedback loop. As meditation helps to quiet the stress response, the amygdala may shrink, which in turn could make future stressors less overwhelming. Modern neuroimaging techniques continue to refine our understanding of these changes. Magnetoencephalography, a method that maps brain activity with high temporal precision, has revealed that mindfulness meditation leads to long-lasting changes in the topology of brain networks involved in emotional regulation, including those anchored in the amygdala. These network-level shifts further illustrate how meditation's effects radiate outward, influencing not just isolated regions but the broader architecture of the brain. While the precise mechanisms by which meditation remodels the amygdala are still being unraveled, the evidence is clear. Repeated practice initiates a cascade of neurobiological changes. These changes manifest as reduced amygdala volume, dampened reactivity to emotional stimuli, and enhanced connections with areas that support reflection and regulation. The cumulative effect is a brain that is less dominated by automatic fear and stress responses and more capable of responding to life's challenges with equanimity. Of course, questions remain. Scientists continue to investigate which meditation styles are most effective for reducing amygdala volume, how long these changes persist, and whether there are individual differences in responsiveness. Not all brain regions may respond in the same way, and more research is needed to uncover the long-term implications for mental health and well-being. Nevertheless, the current body of research offers a hopeful message. Through the simple act of sitting, breathing, and observing, we can participate in the ongoing reshaping of our own emotional brains. The amygdala, once seen as a fixed source of fear and anxiety, is now recognized as a region that can be soothed and sculpted, one mindful moment at a time. Imagine waking up in the morning and, instead of being swept away by a tide of anxious thoughts or emotional turbulence, finding yourself calm, focused, and resilient, even before your first cup of coffee. This is not a utopian fantasy, but a real possibility suggested by research into meditation's effects on the brain, particularly the amygdala. As the amygdala's reactivity diminishes through consistent meditation, the practical ripple effects extend far beyond the boundaries of a brain scan or research laboratory. They are felt in everyday life, in how we respond to stress, manage our emotions, and relate to ourselves and others. One of the most compelling outcomes of a less reactive amygdala is improved emotional regulation. Scientists have found that meditation induces changes not just in surface brain activity, but deep within areas responsible for memory and emotion. As the amygdala becomes less dominant, other regions involved in emotional regulation, such as parts of the cortex, can step in more effectively. The result is a brain better equipped to pause, reflect, and recalibrate instead of simply reacting. In practice, this might mean feeling irritation rise during a tense conversation, but noticing it, taking a breath, and choosing a calmer response. Over time, these small moments accumulate, helping people cultivate a steadier, more balanced inner life. Stress resilience is another area where the amygdala plays a crucial role. Research has highlighted the basolateral amygdala's function in recalibrating emotional responses after stressful events. In individuals exposed to early life stress, increased amygdala reactivity can sometimes act as a resilience mechanism, helping them adapt to challenges. However, when the amygdala remains chronically overactive, it becomes a marker of low resilience and a risk factor for depression. Meditation offers a way to recalibrate this system. By gently easing the amygdala's grip, meditation fosters a more adaptive stress response, one that can absorb life's blows without being overwhelmed. The science supports these impressions with evidence that meditation not only changes the brain, but also leads to tangible improvements in mental and physical health. Mindfulness meditation, in particular, has been shown to lower stress levels, improve mood, and enhance self-awareness. When practiced regularly, even for just 10 minutes a day, mindfulness can help ease depression and anxiety, making it easier to make healthier choices and cope with life's inevitable ups and downs. It is not simply about feeling less stressed, but about strengthening the brain's ability to recover from emotional upset and return to equilibrium. This enhanced emotional self-control is not limited to handling stress. Meditation's benefits extend into daily interactions and the fabric of our relationships. People who meditate often report greater self-control, objectivity, and tolerance of intense emotions. In the language of neuroscience, as the amygdala's influence wanes, the pathways supporting reflection and thoughtful response grow stronger. Instead of being hijacked by fear or anger, the mind learns to observe, accept, and navigate emotional experiences with greater skill. This growing capacity for self-regulation can have profound effects, reducing impulsive decisions, tempering outbursts, and fostering more compassionate connections with others. There is also increasing evidence that meditation supports overall mental well-being. Multiple reviews and overviews have documented meditation's ability to reduce stress and anxiety, improve emotional health, and even support physical health. The mechanisms are still being unraveled, but what is clear is that the benefits are neither fleeting nor superficial. Meditation is associated with improved mood, better sleep, enhanced memory, and increased attention, all likely downstream effects of a calmer, more balanced amygdala. For many, these changes are not dramatic overnight transformations, but gradual shifts that accumulate with practice, subtly altering the landscape of daily experience. It is important to recognize, however, that meditation is not a panacea. Research has also uncovered potential side effects, including increased anxiety or feelings of dissociation in some individuals. As with any intervention, awareness and support are crucial. The same neuroplastic changes that can make the amygdala less reactive may, in some cases, bring unresolved emotions or memories to the surface. For this reason, those beginning a meditation practice are encouraged to proceed with patience and, if necessary, seek guidance from experienced teachers or mental health professionals. Beyond mood and stress resilience, meditation's reach appears to extend to the core of how we experience ourselves. Practitioners often describe a growing sense of self-awareness, a clearer, less judgmental observation of thoughts and feelings as they arise. This quality of mindfulness, supported by daily practice, can help people step back from automatic reactions, making space for more intentional, values-driven choices. Over time, this can lead to better concentration, improved problem-solving, and a greater sense of agency in life. What is especially striking is how modest the investment can be for meaningful change. Studies suggest that even short, consistent periods of mindfulness, sometimes as little as 10 minutes a day, can trigger measurable changes in both the brain and behavior. The implication is that the pathway to emotional health is not reserved for the deeply committed or spiritually inclined, but is open to anyone willing to pause, breathe, and turn inward, even briefly. In sum, as meditation gently influences the amygdala, its benefits ripple outward, touching nearly every aspect of emotional life. By lowering the volume on the brain's alarm system, meditation creates space for calm reflection, thoughtful response, and resilient recovery from stress. It becomes possible to meet life's challenges not with reactivity, but with a steadier, more compassionate presence. While the science is still evolving and individual experiences may vary, the overall trajectory is clear. A less reactive amygdala is not just a brain change, but a gateway to greater emotional health and everyday well-being. As we reach the end of our exploration into meditation and its effects on the amygdala, it is worth pausing to reflect on what this journey reveals. Not just about the brain, but about our capacity for change. The science is clear. The brain is not fixed. Through experiences, especially those that are intentional and repeated, like meditation, we can influence the structures that shape how we feel, react, and connect with the world. For many, this knowledge alone is empowering. It reframes meditation from a mysterious or exclusively spiritual practice into a practical tool with observable effects on brain health and emotional well-being. While the neuroscience is compelling, the real challenge often lies in bringing this promise into daily life. Many people, even after learning about meditation's benefits, find it daunting to begin or to maintain a regular practice. The good news is that, according to practical guidance from both seasoned teachers and everyday practitioners, integrating meditation into your life does not require radical change or extraordinary discipline. In fact, the most effective strategies are simple, gentle, and forgiving. For those new to meditation, the advice is nearly unanimous. Start small. Just a few minutes a day, perhaps 2 or 5 is enough to begin. The key is not the length of each session, but the regularity with which you return to the practice. One especially helpful approach is to anchor meditation to an existing daily routine. This could mean meditating for a few minutes after waking up, during a lunch break, or just before bed. By pairing meditation with something you already do, it becomes less of an abstract goal and more a natural extension of your day. Students and beginners who have maintained long-term meditation habits often share that consistency, more than intensity, is what sustains their practice. And on days when motivation wanes, self-compassion is vital. Rather than criticizing yourself for missing a session or feeling distracted, it is more helpful to gently acknowledge these moments and simply begin again the next day. The brain, after all, learns through repetition and patience, not through force. Breath awareness is one of the most accessible entry points for meditation. Focusing on the natural rhythm of inhaling and exhaling anchors attention in the present moment, giving the mind a simple, reliable point of return whenever it wanders. This act of coming back to the breath again and again is a powerful form of mental training. Over time, it cultivates the neural pathways that underlie emotional regulation and resilience. While the mind will inevitably drift perhaps to worries, memories, or plans, each gentle return to the breath is a small act of training, helping the brain respond to stress and emotion with greater calm. It is also important to address some common myths that can discourage would-be meditators. Many believe that meditation requires emptying the mind of all thoughts, achieving instant calm, or sitting in perfect stillness. The reality, supported by both research and the lived experience of practitioners, is far less rigid. Thoughts will arise and the mind will wander. The practice is not about suppressing these thoughts, but about observing them without judgment and returning your focus, however many times it takes. Even brief, imperfect sessions can yield benefits, especially when approached with curiosity and openness. For those interested in deepening their practice, incorporating mindfulness into everyday activities is a valuable next step. Mindfulness exercises can be woven into daily life while walking, eating, or even washing the dishes. The essence is to bring full attention to the present moment, noticing sensations, sounds, and feelings as they arise. This informal practice complements formal sitting meditation and reinforces the brain's ability to remain steady and less reactive throughout the day. It is not about achieving a particular state, but about cultivating awareness and presence in whatever you are doing. Sustaining a meditation practice over the long term often means embracing variety and flexibility. Some days, a seated meditation may feel inviting. On others, a walking or movement-based practice might be more accessible. There are many forms to explore, and none is inherently superior. What matters most is finding an approach that suits your personality, lifestyle, and needs. Over time, you may find that the lines between meditation and ordinary life begin to blur as moments of mindful awareness become more frequent and natural. Building a habit, as with any new skill, requires patience and perseverance. But unlike habits built on willpower alone, meditation is supported by its own rewards. Many practitioners notice subtle changes after just a few weeks: a greater sense of calm, an increased ability to pause before reacting, and a gentler relationship with their own thoughts and feelings. These shifts, though gradual, are cumulative, strengthening the brain's networks for emotional regulation and, as research suggests, may gradually diminish the amygdala's reactivity to stress and fear. For those who encounter challenges, such as restlessness, frustration, or emotional discomfort, remember that these are common and even expected. They are not signs of failure, but part of the process of changing the brain's habitual responses. If needed, seeking guidance from experienced teachers or joining a meditation group can provide support and encouragement. Many people find that practicing with others, even occasionally, helps to renew motivation and deepen understanding. Ultimately, meditation is not about striving for perfection or achieving a fixed goal. It is about showing up day after day with patience and curiosity. The science makes clear that small, consistent steps can yield significant changes in the brain, especially in regions like the amygdala that shape how we experience and respond to life's challenges. By approaching meditation as a lifelong companion rather than a quick fix, you give yourself the opportunity to foster resilience, clarity, and well-being that can last a lifetime. As you move forward, consider what one small step you could take today to begin or renew your meditation practice. Whether it is 2 minutes of breath awareness, a mindful walk, or simply pausing to notice the sensations of the present moment, each act is a contribution to your brain's health and your own capacity for calm. The journey is ongoing, and every moment of mindful attention is a step toward a more resilient and balanced mind. With patience, kindness, and a willingness to begin again, meditation can become not just a tool, but a way of living, one that supports your brain, your emotions, and your overall well-being for years to come.